and welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I'm Wize, and my guest today is someone who truly embodies transformation. He came to the United States at just 14 years old, not speaking a word of English, facing challenges, adversity, and being completely underestimated. Fast forward to today. He's spoken on over 100 stages, coached thousands of entrepreneurs, and has been named Transformational Coach of the Year twice. But his journey wasn't easy. A life-altering divorce in 2011 forced him to confront what he calls optimistic depression, smiling on the outside while struggling internally. That experience led him to create the 7 Human Drives framework, a deeper approach to understanding identity, behavior, and true transformation. Today, he helps high performers break patterns, reconnect with their authentic selves, and build businesses that actually support their lives. Please welcome to the show, Polish Peter Kolat.
Hey, well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine, man. Thanks for being a guest.
Yeah.
So, you came to the U.S. at 14 without speaking English. What was that experience like for you?
Well, first and foremost, in full disclosure, I didn't really want to come here because at that particular time in my life, when I was 14 years old, I had a pretty good life, kind of a thing, right? But just so happened that I ended up coming here. And a funny story: when I was on the way to United States on the plane, they played a couple of good movies. Um, I wonder if you know what those 2 movies are. Any ideas? This was like '91. Eddie Murphy movies.
Coming to America,
Right on.
and oh man,
An Eddie Murphy movie.
it'd probably be Trading Places or something like
Oh,
that.
that's a good guess, man. No, but it was the what's it called? Beverly Hills Cop, the one where he's in LA, right?
Yeah,
So I'm flying over here and I'm like, this may not be so bad, because I am, there's beautiful skies, palm trees. I always love palm trees, never seen in my entire life. And beautiful cars, like sports cars, 14-year-old boy, beautiful women. And then I land in Detroit. And I'm like, what is happening? So my experience, coming here was kind of like I was in the middle of nowhere, didn't know anything. In fact, like all the houses, I don't know if you know, like you're from New York, I think, correct?
yes.
So do you guys have in your subdivisions, like all the houses are basically the same, like a kind of a cookie
Oh
cutter
no,
thing?
no, no.
They're different?
Yeah, they're different. Where I'm from, I grew up more where there was more empty vacant lots than anything else.
Okay, yeah. So that city had pretty much the same single family home. So I didn't even know how to find my own house, because they all look the same. So that experience was kind of different, looking from the perspective, how do I acclimate, or the word is, assess. Like you need to not be so stuck to your certainty, right? Because when you're in that kind of a place, you have to adapt. Oh, that's the word I'm looking for,
Yeah.
adapt. Yeah.
So how did being underestimated shape the person you became?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think it was mostly I was underestimating myself. And I think a lot of us do that,
Yes.
because we look towards our past and we look at our past. And if you haven't really, done much, or you have this version of what you want to accomplish and you haven't reached the goals, that the default, brain goes, what good are you? You're not going to succeed. You haven't achieved this, A, B, C, D, F, G, right? So we kind of look towards the past. So it's not so much that, other people, obviously, they might have estimated me, but I was underestimating myself. And the way it looked like is, I hid my accent. I didn't want to, have an accent, tried to get rid of it for a very long time. I was afraid to speak out to other people. Getting on the stage was, I would never be on the stage because, what would people think? So a lot of that internal conversation that I had with myself was stopping me from growing in life. So,
And that's a lot of things a lot of us struggle with, right? That internal doubt, like that doubt that you have inside of yourself because of, like you said, because you spoke with an accent, and with me, it's different for because I'm a New Yorker, right? So I speak
mhm.
like a New Yorker, and so yeah, you have that accent, and people associate being New York with being a New Yorker with not really knowing how to speak properly. But it's just things that we kind of our biggest challenges ourselves in a lot of the things that we go through in life. So,
So listen, let me ask you this. So I'll ask you about. So here's what I did, like with my accent, for instance, because I looked at it as a weakness, right?
mhm,
And I think a lot of us are looking at certain things that we don't like about ourselves as a weakness.
yes,
But what if we use that to our advantage? You know, a funny thing is, like, I used, now that I know what I know, looking at my accent, I started using it to my advantage. When I speak on stages, I joke about it, I make fun of it. My team, when we do events around the country, they say that transcripts are on the back table if anybody doesn't understand me, so people laugh, get kind of like more relaxed, and we have fun with it. So look at what we may perceive as a weakness and see how can I use it to my advantage, because in a way it's almost like, I remember looking when I was a kid, watching the superhero movies. You ever watch Superman, right?
yeah,
He was Clark Kent, kind of dorky on the outside, got the glasses, but deep down inside he's the Superman, right?
yeah.
So in a way, what if we look at it that way? We have the superpower, and how can I use it to my advantage? And because that was the gift that was given to me, and go from that. And you'd be surprised how you can actually use that to help you grow in business and life and relationships in all kinds of different ways.
So, at what point did you realize you were capable of building something bigger?
Uh, that's a great question. What point did I recognize? I think, pops into my head is I remember watching my uncle build his entire house when I was little growing up. And he built all the furniture and things like that. And while I was watching, sitting with him, I was, looking to help him. I was, holding certain things and helping. So I would cut here and cut there. So sometimes I was kind of surprised in that low level to be able to go and build something. Then when I was, came to United States, got to, learn the language. I was surprised, kind of think that I did learn the language. Took me about 10 months. So I started, I think, noticing that we undervalue ourselves. I'm not sure if at that particular moment in my life, I was like
Yeah,
consciously agreeing with it. But another thing and another thing and another thing. And you start looking from what you build up on it. And pretty soon, if you are looking from that perspective, you start seeing how many things you have accomplished that maybe you've never thought you would be able to accomplish. And here you are. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. So you've been through what you call optimistic depression. What did that feel like?
Yeah, so I think at the beginning of the podcast, when you did the introduction, I think you kind of hit it. I think there are very few people that I've spoken about this um, knew what that was, because of the fact that we never hear this kind of a term, like optimistic depression. That seems like an oxymoron, right?
Mhm.
But like you hit it, like deep down inside, kept asking myself the question, what the hell is wrong with me? Because my whole life just fell apart. I had a marriage, ended up getting divorced, lost my entire business because at that particular moment I didn't care about my business. I just, I remember that I had this list building service that I was using. I had, over 10,000 people on my list, and I didn't even care about sending out emails, and that service basically deleted the list, right? So I've lost that, and I was just, living by myself and seeing my kids every couple of weekends and picking them up and dropping them off at school during the day. But for the most part, I kept asking myself, what the hell is wrong with me? And on the outside, when people were asking me, I was trying, and I'm saying trying because sometimes we do that. People would ask me, well, how's it going? What's going on? You okay? And my answer was, yeah, I'm good. Everything's good. I'm good. But think about it this way. People ask, they can see, they can sense, right? They can tell that something is off. So that mask wasn't working very well. And because of that, I was, struggling for a while until I finally came to recognition of looking at being aware of what's going on over here and starting reframing that conversation.
So what was that the turning point that led to your personal rebirth?
Personally, so it's interesting because, well, I think there was a moment where I was about to get kicked out of the townhouse that I was living in. So I was like, I need to change something. This is obviously not working, right? Because I was about to get kicked out. And then the second moment was I remember sitting in the mastermind, like a really good friend of mine that got connected to another friend of mine, brought me into this mastermind, a company called Life on Air. And I'm sitting in that room. So imagine there was a group of people. There was a like a round table, like a square actually. And there's probably 20, 30 people in there. And everybody's sharing their like a hot seat and they're sharing their own turns. And then comes my turn. And I'm talking about what's going on with me, my life, and being a little bit open, vulnerable, and kind of like, telling them. And one of the people on the other side goes, well, dude, sounds to me like you're a people pleaser. I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, I mean, from all the stuff that you're saying, you were a people pleaser. And that moment, first time ever, I was 35 years old at the time. Well, I'm like, huh, would you believe that? I'm a people pleaser. And that was like a kind of like an awakening moment. Like, so how many other of these beliefs that I have that are running in the background, like these blind spots back there that I don't see? And that's why I think I started to go and, be more aware of what's going on back there.
Okay. So you talk about people being stuck in the self-help trap. What does that mean?
Well, because think about it this way in self help, and I loved it, by the way. I've read probably, I don't know, several hundred books up to this point, personal development space, right? And yeah, it helps, like, habits and helps a lot of the different things. I have a lot of favorite books. However, I think what ends up happening a lot of times, we trying to go and figure out ourselves based on that persona that we think that we are. Think about it this way. When you were 3, 4, 5 years old, how were you being? You were probably just free and you were being kind of curious, happy, no cares in the world kind of a thing. You were being fearless. You didn't care about walking up to somebody and saying something, right?
Yeah.
Probably your parents said to you like, well, where are you going? Don't talk to strangers, right? By the way, that's one of these beliefs that at some point gets locked in here. Don't talk to strangers, right? So now obviously you want to be careful. So I'm not saying you never talk to strangers.
No, but
You know what I mean?
but that it definitely goes into your mindset where now when you're older, right?
Yeah,
You're afraid to speak to strangers, and these might be people that you might be able to build a relationship towards whatever it is, but because of that kind of thinking, right? Don't talk to strangers.
right.
It builds that fear in you of I can't talk to these people. I can't talk to them because I don't know them.
Yeah, or think about it. You're in second grade. You're sitting there, and teacher asks a question, and ask a question like, who's the first president of the United States? And you're all excited, and you raise your hand and you say like, I don't know, you say John F. Kennedy, and the whole class laughs, right? And in that moment, the little seed gets planted and say, ooh, I gotta be careful what I say because people laugh when I raise my hand, Then you go home, you tell your mom about it, and mom wants the best for you. So mom says, well, listen, John, you got to be very careful when you answer. You got to think through to the answer. You can't just blurt it out, because you want to be right. Now another little seed gets planted, and you start building on these beliefs. And now all of a sudden you have the belief that I can't raise my hand. I got to be very sure, 100% sure that I know the answer before I answer it. And now you're 35 years old, and you don't answer your questions when people ask you something because what if I'm wrong? So I want to prove that I'm right, kind of a thing, right?
Yep.
So all these things start to building up. So what ends up happening in the self-help space is that I think the self-help space is so focused on fixing that version of us that was created, that we basically live based on somebody else's belief system, like your parents, your school, society, or whatever, as opposed to just getting back to your authentic self. You know what I mean? Like letting go of a lot of these beliefs and getting back to the authenticity. And when you start doing that, all of a sudden, you're not worried about, speaking on the stage. You're not worried about your accent. You're not worried about how people are going to perceive you. You're not worried what, keeping up with the Joneses or whatever it might be, and it changes the game.
Yeah. So what are the 7 human drives and why are they so important?
Well, the seven human drives, in full disclosure, I don't know if you know who Tony Robbins is, but
Yeah.
he created something called Six Human Needs. And I started studying this in a deeper level, and a lot of the work comes from him. And I'm a huge fan of his. But what ends up happening is I think there were some missing elements, like the seventh drive, I think is missing. And I think it's not so much a need that we need, it's what drives us in life, what drives us to move forward. So, in quickly, because we can spend a whole entire hour just talking about the drives here, I'm in the framework. There are seven of them. Every single human being on this earth has to use them. There is no going around it. It's just different levels. Like for me, for instance, that drive for certainty, like I need to know what's going on, when it's happening, how it's happening. That certain, the comfort, in life is not very important for me. For someone like you, maybe it is. You know what I mean? So just different level. So we all have them. They can be used for good. They can be used for bad. We all have these what I call vehicles. That's like behaviors that keep doing it in order to meet those drives. And in short, those seven drives are: one is the comfort, certainty that we need to have in life. Because think about it this way: if you don't feel comfortable in life, and I think right now in today's world, there is not a lot of comfort, not a lot of certainty. So people keep trying to hold on to something, and they don't move, they don't take action. Second drive is the variety, the uncertainty, because if you knew everything, how it's going, when it's going, how it's going to happen, life would be pretty boring pretty quickly, right? So we need some variety, we need some uncertainty. Third drive is that drive for significance, feeling like we're important, feeling like we matter, right, in life. That we're, the cat's meow. For somebody, might be speaking on a stage or being on a podcast. For another person, might be that they are, going to rob a bank, because now they rob a bank, and guess what? Everybody's talking about it on, Channel 4 news. Obviously, that's a bad way of doing it, right? Not telling anybody to go rob a bank. Don't do that, right? So, but there is that. Then the number four is that love and connection. Like we all need to feel like we're connected. Human beings need to be aligned with other people. We can't be, secluded. We're meant for in the groups. So there's love and connection. The next one is growth. We need to feel like we're growing, because if we're not growing, we're kind of dying, right? So that's why a lot of personal development spice comes in. Whether it's growing in relationships, in your business, or whatever it might be, we need to feel like we're growing. Next one, which is number 6, is contribution. We need to feel like we're contributing to somebody, like we're helping somebody out, whether it's, giving back to a community or nonprofit or helping someone out. It's very important. And the 7th one, which I think is really important that they didn't talk about, is that drive for faith. I think we all have to have some kind of form of faith. And it's something bigger than us, something more impactful than us, whether it's God, whether it's Creator, whatever it might be for you. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer in God. So for me, it's, God. And when I look from that perspective, a lot of those other drives are not as significant, not as important as, they were used to be before. So those are the 7 drives. And when you start looking for yourself and you start to discover which one or two are at the top, then you start to discover, why do I make the decisions that I make? Why do I talk to people the way I talk to? And same thing with other people. Like if like let's say Will's top drive is significance, then you know how to talk to Will to help him get on the same page, or, be in a great conversation with Will, kind of thing, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So why do so many people repeat the same patterns even when they know better, right? Like why are so many people stuck even though they know the reason why they're stuck?
I think it's because of the fear. And I wrote it in my book. I think I dedicated the entire chapter about fear. Fear will stop you in so many different ways, and a lot of it is the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. If you've done something, let's say when you were little, when you were learning how to ride a bicycle, right? First time you sat on the bicycle, you were kind of scared, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started, you maybe went a little bit, maybe you fell off, maybe you got the balance. The minute you got the balance on the bicycle, it's all over. No more fear.
Yeah.
And then you started going after, just riding bicycle all over the place. But I think what ends up happening is fear stops people a lot in their tracks. And that's, I think, something that we have to we look at it from the perspective as far as like avoiding it, like Don't come to the fear. I need to avoid it. I don't need to deal with it. I would say love on it. Think about it this way. Like, I'll give you an example. Snake. Do you like snakes, Will?
I'm not. Yeah. I'm not scared of them. I'm like my brother used to have a snake, so I wasn't like. But yeah, I'm not.
So your brother, does he have a big snake or like a boa or just
He had
like,
a ball. Yeah.
holy cow, that's a huge one. Okay. So think about it this way. Why he obviously wasn't scared of the snake.
No.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe he just.
He
Some
liked it,
people.
didn't he?
Yeah. He had. Yeah. When you don't have fear, something you just don't have fear for it.
Yeah, but he liked them, right? He was hanging out with him. He was probably petting him.
Oh,
There was
yeah.
something about him that he loved, right?
He had it from when it hatched out of an egg. Yes. So
Right. So he took care of him, right? It was like a relationship, right?
yeah.
Now, there are other people in the world who will not even get close to a snake or they
Absolutely.
even want to look at it.
No.
Why is that? It's because of that fear, right? So
Mhm.
there is a big difference between the one like your brother, there's something that he loves, appreciates about that snake, whereas other person don't.
Yeah.
So if we don't to love on some of these things, all of a sudden the fear starts to disappear.
Yeah. So what does it actually mean to rewire your identity?
Well, I think rewire identity for me, it means to get back to your authenticity.
Mm.
Because we have this, like I mentioned, that persona that we live, right? Like I need to be this certain way, like keeping up with the Joneses. And we heard this analogy, right? This metaphor, keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Somebody else got need to buy the car and all that kind of stuff. And then we're constantly, at the end of the day, we don't have any money because we're spending all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Is that really true? Is it really me? When you start looking from that perspective and getting back to your authenticity, you start to discover maybe that's not that big of a deal to keeping up with the Joneses because guess what? The Jones down the street, he doesn't care about me really. He just cares about his own life.
Yeah.
You know? And now it shifts how we operate in life. So I think it's more about getting back to authenticity. And when you get to that, like being, curious, being open, being fun, being, just like a 3-year-old kid. If you were just doing that sometimes in life, guess what? Life would be a lot more fun.
Yeah. Yeah, but but again, it's the years of programming that we're battling, right? It's all
Exactly.
these years
Right.
that of us being told we can't do something and we can't accomplish it. That now it's a struggle for us to overcome these limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
So that's why it's one of the reasons I started the podcast was to create a platform where people can come and share their stories and someone like yourself can talk about overcoming limiting beliefs and you helping other people become their authentic selves.
Yeah.
And that's why I love being able to do my podcast because I can be myself. I can actually come and learn and ask questions and things that I want to learn. But at the same time, I'm sharing with my audience and they're learning from it. So it's for me, it's a win-win situation because I get to grow and develop myself by asking these questions and having these conversations. But at the same time, there's people out there that might be struggling through something similar and they catch this episode and it helps them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, man. I love it. I love the name of your podcast too because a lot of us do feel like we're stuck in your head, and I think your whole goal of this podcast is to get people out of the head.
Yeah.
I say this to a lot of my students, and I'm not sure when I learned this. I can remember what I said. Once you're in your head, you're dead. Because you start thinking all kinds of different things. And I will say this: whoever's listening, if you have these limiting beliefs, there's something called confirmation bias. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Well, confirmation bias. What that really means is we are going to look for information that is going to confirm what we already believe. Think about it. We're looking for information that's already going to confirm what we already believe because guess what? We don't want to be wrong with somebody else, let alone be wrong to ourselves. Right? I've been thinking about this for 20 years and now I'm going to discover something new. Well, I don't want that. So I'll have information I'm going to look for that's going to confirm that existing belief. Now, if I were to go and start questioning these beliefs and go, is it really true? Is it really true that my accent sucks? Well, no, because maybe there was one person in the world ever that said that I have a cool accent, so it's not really true.
Yeah.
Start there, right?
Yeah.
And you start to create the seed for that belief, and then you start looking and for other opportunities, start growing it. And when you start growing that new belief, guess what? By doing that, you kind of abandon the old belief, and now you start living more into the new belief.
So how do you help entrepreneurs build a business that supports their life instead of consuming it?
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of people get into entrepreneurship, right? They leave a 9 to 5, but they actually end up putting more hours into their business than they were when they were working a 9 to 5.
Yeah. So that's a great question, man. So in full disclosure, this kind of learned it from a couple of places. One was the Napoleon Hill. I don't know if you ever heard of Think and Grow Rich.
Yes.
Yep, that's a great book. And the other one was kind of refined by the company called Life and I learned those two things. So the way we do this is this. When I first started my first business and I left my W-2 job back in 2007, 8, I think it was right around that area, I wrote a plan for my business and, what it needs to be, how it needs to be. And I just went full on. And I needed to get this business going and I needed to do all this. And it was all business, 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 business. Guess what? I didn't have any vision because I had a vision for my business. I didn't have a vision for my life. So guess what took over? My business took over my life. And I was working 80, 90. Sometimes I'll pull all-nighters. And I was working till the cows come home because that's what I had, the business. So the way I help people, because obviously that business failed and impacted my life negatively, I started looking from the perspective, let's look, what do I want my life to look like? Like every single area of my life, my health, my relationship with my significant people, my spiritual growth, my, every single area that's personal to me, to my life. Like, for instance, I'm going to the gym at 3:30 in the afternoon, right? That's part of my, and by the way, you will not have that in your life at that particular point. That vision that you're writing out, that you want to have of your life, forget the business, forget money, don't worry about any of it. You just write out the vision for your life in a present tense, in a present moment, and you put it on one-page document and say, this is my future vision of my life that I'm writing it in the present moment. Guess what? There's no business on there. So now I have this vision. You with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
So now the question becomes, okay, how much is it going to cost me to live that vision? So you come up with a number, and then you put those things that you want in your vision on a calendar, like on a weekly calendar, and you, let's say, put like morning time that I have, with the Lord or meditate. Then I have 3:30 in the gym, that I have dinner with my wife, everything, or I hang out with my kids, spend time with them here and there. I put all this stuff on my calendar, and I end up with how many hours I have left over to do job/business stuff. For me personally, when I did this, was about 22 hours. So I had a number plus 22 hours left to do this. And now the question becomes, how do I create and what kind of business do I create to support that life? So that's flipped on its head, like flipped upside down. Now you are building a business that's going to support that life. So if you're going to be at the gym at 3:30 in the afternoon, guess what? You will have to do something in your business, hire someone, get somebody else to do certain aspects that you're not doing. You're going to have to let go of this perfection. You're going to have to let go of the people pleaser in order for someone else to step in and build a business that's going to eventually do 20, 22 hours. And today, that's what I have. I have 20, 22 hours a week that I do. I work from about 10 to about 3 o'clock, and my business works. So do you see how there's a big difference how we set up that business?
Yeah, absolutely. So what separates real transformation from temporary motivation?
That's a great question. I think what separates real transformation from temporary motivation is that you are not looking to be motivated. I think there is a fallacy in people that are looking to be. I need to be motivated to do something. You know what I mean? And they're constantly sitting there waiting to be motivated.
Yeah.
Like think about January 1st comes, New Year's resolutions come, right? Now people are motivated because they see all kinds of different ads. They see, I need to lose weight and all those different things, right? There is the motivation that pretty much goes away. The transformation happens when somewhere in the core, in here, you make a decision that, let's say, enough is enough. And from now on, I am not going to eat that Twinkie, right? Or from now on, I'm going to the gym, because if I don't, then when my kids are older and my daughter is walking down the aisle and will have to walk down the aisle by herself because I was too, stubborn to go to the gym and I died before that. Obviously, I can't control that. But, if you look from that perspective, all of a sudden you start hitting the gym. Ask me how I know that, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of agreement I made with myself. And that's what the real transformation happened. Like, meaning it becomes a must, right? The motivation is like should, could, would kind of a thing. The transformation is a must. That's it. I'm doing it. No questions asked.
Yeah. Yep. So what? Because you mentioned your faith. So what role does your faith play in your journey and your work?
Oh, dude, it permeates every single area of my life. And I will tell you this. So there is a strong belief that I have, that I adopted, I think even before I dove deep into the faith with Lord and Christ. And there is this, that everything happens for me. Like everything happens for me. The good, the bad, and the ugly. If I look at my divorce, it happened for me. How could that be? Well, guess what? If I wasn't for the divorce, I wouldn't be a coach. I wouldn't have this company, wouldn't be speaking to Will right now. And I wouldn't be married to an amazing woman that I'm married to right now, and wouldn't have the relationships and things that I have right now, right? If I didn't come here to the United States, which at the time at 14, I didn't want to do it, then guess what? I wouldn't be here speaking English and all kinds of different things, right? So if you look back at your life, everything happens for you. So that's one of those things, and that permeates to, my business. Lord is my partner, in my relationships. He's the leader. My value system now it's, Lord, wife, kids, business, in that order, and that's how I start to run my entire life and business. So, it's everything and everywhere.
So what does living an authentic life really look like right now for you?
For me right now is just, I think, being in the moment. In the simplest term is being in a moment and being present. I think in today's world, people are not present. They're not in the moment. Like right now, I'm speaking to you on the podcast, 100% of conversation with you, right? When I get off the podcast, because of the time of recording, I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to sit down, have dinner with my wife. I'm going to be 100% present with her. Whatever got going on in the business, it's on the side, and I'm with her constantly. You know what I mean? In that moment. When I go to the gym, I work out, had 100% in the workout. And I think that's, big. Because think about it. If you look at a 3-year-old, do you feel like they're present? Like they're working on that block that they're putting together on that little play set or whatever. They're all in on that, right?
Yeah.
They're all in. I think there's something to be said about that. So I think present and being in the moment is huge.
So what impact do you want your work to have long term?
What impact do I want? What?
What impact do you want your work to have
Work?
long term? Yes.
Well, I would say that I just want people to, for the lack of a better word, be aware and wake up to their authenticity kind of a thing. I think we've been told in so many different ways how we should be. We can't be this, can't be that. So I think I want my work to wake people up, like this awakening kind of a thing, right? Just start questioning, your belief system. The things that work for you, great, but there's a lot of beliefs that don't work for you. Start questioning them, and stepping out of this comfort, just because I think people are much more powerful, impactful than they believe that they are. I think we all have these gifts. We all are someone who can make a real difference in people's lives, whether it's in your family, in your marriage, with your kids, or you're Tony Robbins and you're impacting gazillions of people in the world, right? So, but we all have this ability to impact people. So I think that's what I wouldn't leave here. And actually, my kids, they can see in an example that I'm just not the talk, but I walk the walk and impacting their lives in a good way.
Awesome, awesome, man. This has been awesome. This has been great. Um, but we've come to the part of the show where I got one more question, and then you're gonna get the spotlight, and you get to plug away. If someone listening right now feels stuck in their mind, stuck in their pattern, and stuck in their life, what would you tell them?
Uh, Take one action. I don't care what it would be, because I think people are stuck, they feel frozen, right?
Yeah.
And let's say it's area of, let's say in your business, you're stuck in your business. Nothing seems to work. Nothing seems to be doing. Um, go for a walk and clear your mind, and then take one action. And you think about it this way: most people know deep down inside what that action needs to be. We do know, but for whatever reason, that fear kind of gets in there. Take a step towards that, like walk through it. Because listen, at this particular point, what else you got to lose, right? If you were stuck, just walk through that fear. Go take that action and see what happens.
Absolutely, definitely. Now we've come to the part of the show where you get the screen, you get to plug away, let everybody know where they can find you, website, where to get the book, everything.
Yeah, well, thanks, Phil. I appreciate being on this podcast, man. Great conversation. So the book that I, want to give away to your audience here, it's called Authentic Self Rebirth. I wrote this book from my own experience and a lot of the coaching that I do with all of my different students. So it's not just theory; it's actual stories of people's transformation. And the book is broken into two parts. One is the awakening, which we question our entire belief system, and I have videos in there. There is like a 4D, there is QR codes that there's answering questions in there and things like that. So it's not just a book, it's almost like a manual. You can read it in one weekend, or you can take with you wherever you go and be able to get back to your authenticity. If you want a free copy, all you got to do is pay shipping and handling, because that copy's been taken care of for you. You can go to myauthenticrebirth.com, myauthenticrebirth.com. And if you want to see some of those videos that I share, I have an Instagram channel that I post a lot of the different videos. You can find the channel on Authentic Self Rebirth on Instagram. And Polish Peter, you can pretty much find me anywhere. So thank you so much, Will, for having me on here. And if you like a copy of the book, free copy, you can go to the website or anywhere the books are sold, actually, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, everywhere.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter, for stopping through and dropping some real great information. I appreciate your time. This is a great episode. But don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show and we'll chat a little bit off the air. But thank you so much for being such a great guest, man. I really appreciate your time.
Of course, man. Same here, man. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Another great episode is in the books. I want to thank Polish Peter Kolat for coming on and sharing his story, his framework, and his truth. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to Stuck in My Mind podcast, leave a review, share this with someone who needs to hear it. And please don't forget to check out the website at realwiseglobal.com and definitely go check out Peter's website. I'm going to have everything in the description, the show notes. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Have a great day. Peace out.